when the Sixth Fleet uses the Haifa Naval Base whenever it chooses to, free of charge, what would that cost America in the Philippines, or in Spain, or in Portugal, or in Greece? If it's not worth it, don't lose the money. Find yourself another base. How much is it worth to America that for years now the U.S. Armed Forces has used the Negev as a storage area for hundreds of millions of dollars worth of weapons in case of a war? Where else could they store those weapons? Where? Egypt? They'd be stolen in 2 days. That's not worth it? Don't give us the money. Go to Egypt. How much is it worth to see a MiG right up close? How much was it worth to the CIA to study that MiG backwards and forwards and take it apart? And how much is that? And for those people that say, well, it's the end of history now, no more problem in Russia. First of all, if I was selling insurance, I wouldn't write a policy on Gorbachev. That's the first thing. Who knows what will be in Russia in 2 weeks? We're already dismantling the armed forces. Peace, brothers. What a world. American policy is still based upon the need for a strong and a stable, reliable anti-Soviet ally in that region as a big choice, either Israel or Abu Dhabi. And finally, what happened to God? I'm going to speak to you as a rabbi. It's about time that you heard rabbis speak to you. What happened to Jewish faith? You think that Israel is a country to go. A people wanted the earth for 1,900 years, as we did, suffering what we suffered, and survives, and comes back to its country just as the Bible says? You think that's an ordinary thing? It happened? No, it never happened before. We were in wars in six days. God made the land in 6 days. We took the land in 6 days, and on the 7th, we both rested. You think that is an ordinary thing? No, that's not an ordinary thing. The state of Israel is God's hand. And it is a very special state. And will never, ever go under. You want to talk about logic, practicality. Oh my God, you have to be practical. Let me tell you about practicality. In March of 1948, Warren Austin, who was the U.S. ambassador to the UN, rose in the General Assembly and stated that America was no longer supporting the partition plan. Instead, it supported a UN trusteeship over all of Palestine. That week, Harry Truman imposed an embargo on all weapons to the Middle East, which meant to the Jews, because the British were giving the Arabs weapons. And George Marshall, who was the Secretary of State, called in the man who would be the first foreign minister of Israel, Moshe Sharet, and said to him, tell Ben-Gurion not to declare a state because you won't survive. We won't help you, and you have no bombers, was true, no tanks, that was true. You have only 600,000 men, women, and children, that was true. And Ben-Gurion, who was not one, I'm not one of his fans, nevertheless, declared a state. And then something happened. Someone decided to sell weapons to Israel. Logical person, well-known Zionist named Joseph Stalin. Now, I don't know what Jimmy the Greek would place odds on that, but pretty long odds, even bigger than Buster Douglas. Yes. Now, of course, it's God's hand, and we sit here and we think, well, what will be with America? Once we were people that had faith in the burning bush, and now we depend upon George Bush. I mean, what has happened to us? We have to get up off of our knees. This isn't Minsk. This isn't Pinsk. This is Israel. You talk to George Bush like a partner. We're partners. We give and we get, and you give and you get, and we are partners. That's how one talks. Because if I were George Bush and I heard all these Jews saying, well, we need America, that would be an invitation to me to pressure Israel. In any case, I come to this country, and I'm on many, many radio talk shows. I cannot remember, and I was born here. I'm not someone who's coming out of, someone from Israel coming to give you kind of advice. This is what you should do. No. I was born here. I have never seen as much open anti-Semitism in this country since World War II as I see today. It's open, the slightest problem. It comes in black and white. I'm warning you. Do not ever listen to your Jewish leaders who tell you it couldn't happen here. This isn't Germany. Of course this isn't Germany, but neither was Germany always. In Germany, they used to tell people that this isn't Poland. True. Every country has its way. Its way. Nobody loved their country as much as the Jews of Germany did. Nobody felt as German as did the Jews of Germany. They didn't even call themselves Jews. They called themselves Germans of the Mosaic faith. They loved Germany with a passion that no one here could ever feel. Germany had a Jewish foreign minister already in 1922, Walter Rathenau. America didn't have a Jewish Secretary of State till 1972. And it was only because he fled Germany. If someone would have asked a Jew, any Jew in the entire world in 1920, who were the worst of the anti-Semites, not one would have said Germans. They would have said Poles, and Slovaks, and Ukrainians, and Lithuanians, and Romanians, and Hungarians. Not what Germans were the best. Kultur. And then it happened. It did not happen because Germans are different. They are not different. And for all these Jews, and for every Jew that in his insanity visits Poland today, are you crazy? You're spending money there? People whose hands are red with Jewish blood? What do you want to see in Poland? Give them the cemetery. I want money to go for Jewish life and not for Jewish death. It happened in Germany not because they're any different. It happened because there was a terrible economic collapse. People lost not only jobs, but they lost hope. And people who lose hope will follow anyone who offers them hope. That's what happened. You want to tell me it couldn't have happened here? Are we crazy? The problem is that your local Jewish leaders are these losers. Ugh. It's incredible. Who is chosen to be a leader? Ignoramuses. They're not chosen for their scholarship, knowledge, their piety. They're chosen for their money and their ability to raise money. They know what people think about Jews. They don't know what people think about Jews. They sit at dinners and at banquets, national conference of Christians and Jews, and they sit and exchange conversation, humor and joke and plaques. This here is your plaque, my plaque. There is only one place where a person can find out what people really think about Jews, and that's in a bar. A neighborhood working class bar, not a trendy bar over here in downtown San Francisco. even if it is a happy one. A working class bar, that's when the schnapps goes in, that's when you hear what comes out. That's where you hear America singing. The jealousy, the Jews own this and the Jews this and Jews, and that's when times are good. God forbid if there should be an economic collapse in this country. God forbid it will be the Jews who are blamed. Michael, the Jews, not the blacks, because the anti-Semites blame Jews for everything, including blacks. The tragedy of our time, the tragedy. The Jews we don't want to see it. We don't want to see it. It is on top of us, and we don't want to see it. A country with a deficit over $2 trillion, the biggest debtor in the world. If the Japanese will someday lose faith in the dollar and stop covering our debts here, there goes the ball game. Wall Street. Wall Street. There is no relationship between Wall Street and the real world. The biggest gambling joint north of New Jersey. The economy here is in terrible, terrible shape. Losing jobs, losing trade, losing everything. We sit here. You think carefully, especially young people. Go home. If you're in college this summer, go to Israel. Who says every Jew has to be a PhD? Where does it say that? Where does it say that every Jew has to be a doctor, an attorney, or marry one? Where? Go to Israel, enroll in a yeshiva. If you don't like it, quit. If you do like it, stay. And learn a trade. Learn to work with your hands. Plant a tree in Judea and Samaria. Be a farmer. Get married. Have a dozen babies. Every one of those children is a gem to us. We owe Hitler 2 million babies. Pay him back. In this case, interest is allowed. And then 30 years from now, when you're sitting in your Jewish state with your grandchildren in a settlement which has now become a town, and you speak to them and you tell them how it was when you first came, difficult, and they look up at you and tell you in Hebrew, Eze Saba, Eze Safta, what a grandfather, what a grandmother, then you know what Jewish nachas is. Go home. Go home. We don't need money. We need Jews. One final word. I was banned in 1988. The Koch movement was banned from running for Knesset in a moving demonstration of democracy. An elected party with the polls, the final polls right before the banning showing us with between 8 to 12 seats, which would have made us easily the third largest party in Knesset, and with polls showing that of the age group of the voters between the ages of 18 through 25, with Koch the largest percentage of any party. That's why they banned us, not because of racism. All of a sudden, Likud became a possible. We fight racism, of course. They were afraid we would take seats from them. That's why I was banned, and not a Jewish liberal raise his or her voice. Right, Michael? Maybe I didn't hear you. I know you did. Yes, I know. We have to move quickly to save Israel from itself. And the answer to that is a national referendum. Take the power out of the Knesset to the real sovereign power base, and that is the people. A referendum is pure democracy. A parliament, a Knesset, a Congress,